Hi, and welcome to Wealthy Woman Lawyer. I am your host, Davina Frederick, the CEO and founder of Wealthy Woman Lawyer. And I'm here today with my good friend and client, Autumn Beck Blackledge of Autumn Beck Blackledge, PLLC. Autumn is a family law attorney in Pensacola, Florida, and she is also a member of the $1 million plus revenue generating woman owned law firm club. So we're really excited and happy to have her here today because she's going to share some insights with us and some lessons she's learned along the way and just tell us her story. And we're also going to talk about, we're recording this at the time of, we're all on quarantine and lockdown from the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're all kind of concerned about recession and maybe what may be coming economically and financially. So she and I are going to talk about that today. It's a conversation that we talk about a lot, business
Yeah.
and how to get business thriving. So Autumn, I'm really happy that we're doing this.
Yes, me too. Thank you so
Yay,
much for having me.
yay, great. So why don't you start out by telling us, um, I want to give people a little more information about your firm and the size of it and how you serve your clients. And then after that, we'll kind of delve into the story of your journey for the first 7 years or so of your firm up until the point where you and I met. And then we'll talk about, what's been going on in the last 16, 18 months.
Sure. Okay, so I had been practicing law. This will be my 19th year of practice, and the law firm of Autumn Beck Blackledge PLLC. We solely focused on marital and family law. We are a small firm in the Panhandle. It's myself, and we have two associates that work with the firm, and a total of 5 other staff members. That we've actually grown a lot in the last 18 months. When we first started in October of 2014, it was just me and one staff person, and I had been working for a large firm, and trying to get my niche. I knew I liked family law, but being in a larger firm, I had a lot of conflicts, cases that I couldn't take because we represented business clients and bank clients. So there would always be one side of the coin that I couldn't represent, and it sort of limited me here in this market. So we took the leap of faith and decided to start the firm October 1st, 2014. And the last 5 years have been incredible. We have had year-over-year growth that is just really remarkable. And obviously not only grown in revenue, but also grown in the number of attorneys and number of staff. Our client number of cases, and it's a little bit fluctuates, obviously, based on the complexity of the cases, but we've probably gone from about 40 cases when we first started to almost in 200 or so now.
Wow, that's significant. That's significant. So what made you decide to niche down to family law? Like, why do you like family law?
Well, 2 reasons why I ended up kind of niching down. First is when I worked in personal injury and in some other areas of law, I liked the aspect of the actual people on the other side of the files. And so I realized that even when you're in personal injury, it still isn't quite enough personal contact for me. I really like to know the client. I like to be able to solve a problem for them. And then the second reason that I did it is there was a need. There's a lot of business, and there is a real need in the industry for people who love what they do and don't just do what they do because they can or because there's a lot of business. Quality lawyers in family law are hard to come by, and people who like it. You also get to do a little bit of everything in family law. So one day you kind of get to be a coach. Some days you get to be a counselor. Some days you get to negotiate. lots of days you're litigating. So your role changes a lot. And I love that, because every day
Yeah.
is different
Yeah. And you
and every
really
case
have,
is different.
you really kind of have a philosophy or an approach that's different maybe than some other family law attorneys, certainly in your area. And tell us a little bit about that. I know that with your clients, you're not entirely unopinionated and without a point of view.
So yeah, I have an opinion about most everything. I'm pretty passionate about anything that I do, and so family law is sort of the same. You know, my goal with clients is not only to give them excellent legal results and to support them, but also to be truthful with them and help them to launch into the next phase of life. So it could be that someone divorces and they're going to remarry. Well, there are problems with both sides. It's very rare that you find a divorce case where there's one person who led to the divorce. So part of our goal at our firm is really to help drill down as to what did go wrong, what could be better, so that people have a better, chance of the next life, whatever that might be. It might be remarried, it might be co-parenting, it could just be as a healthy individual. It can be adoptive parents or parents who've lost their children. So all of those scenarios need a lawyer that will help them get ready for whatever is next.
Right, right. And it's really about helping them transition. I know one of the things that one of the expressions you're always using is a family for life, right? Because
Right.
you're part of a large blended family.
Yeah.
And so you know what it's like to marry someone who has children, and you have children, and now you have a big family.
Right.
And I know that you and I have always talked about kind of that, being able to look at whatever the first marriage was as just part of your journey.
Right.
And especially if you have kids and you have to co-parent together.
Yeah. I mean, people who know me and know my ex-husband, I'm not sure if they would realize that we ever would have been married, but they definitely never would have noticed that there's any animosity. We made a decision early on that we were going to raise the kids in a way where we may have fallen out of love, but we really never fell out of respect. And that was a conscious decision. That was a decision to overlook the things that had led to the divorce on both ends. And I'm not 100% sure what he's having to overlook. We decided not to really delve into a lot of that. We
Right.
just decided this was not where we needed to be, and we really wanted to raise the kids in a way that they didn't realize that there could be two parents who weren't friends. And conversely, we've my husband has been divorced and remarried to me, and now we have a blended household of 5 kids. Our oldest son is actually stationed right now in Molesworth, England, so it's been quite a bit since we've seen him. Been a little bit tough knowing that we're all quarantined across the world from each other.
Yeah.
On the other hand, he's a big bunch of energy, just kind of like myself. So it might be better for us all that he's overseas during his
He's not quarantined in your house.
Yeah.
I can imagine right now being quarantined in your house. It's a lot more. It's probably a lot more active than my house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with all of those teenagers.
So we have 4 teenagers. The other ones that are at home between the 2 of us, and they're all either distance learning or whatever they're calling it, but they're, since we're in the pandemic stage, when we're recording this, we've got 4 kids, 4 computers, 4 different schedules. I'm on the home computer. I want them to be quiet. They finish their work. They want to run around. They want to turn the TV on. So there's a lot of compromising, and it is, but we've found our groove. Well, no, say found it, but we are finding our groove every day. And I think I'm going to look back and realize that it was a really, really good time for us.
Yeah. that's what I'm wondering is how many people are kind of reconnecting with their families and people they love the most, and um, because we're kind of forced into this spending more time together arrangement and not being able to go out and socialize with people. And I know that especially when you're a teenager, that's a challenge. I want to shift back to talking about the business because I want to talk about some of the changes that you made. You had an assistant. It was really the two of you. And I know when you and I met, you had a part-time attorney who was kind of
Mhm.
working sort of counsel and that sort of situation with you. Um, what what led you to decide you were in the multi six figure range at that
Mhm.
time?
I was.
What led you to kind of decide, I really want to take this to the next level and see what I could do with it? What kind of thought process did you have?
Well, there were two things. One was we were making some money, but it was with a lot of angst, personal angst. I didn't feel organized. I didn't feel in control of my schedule. I didn't feel that I had control over the quality of clients that I was bringing in. It felt like it was happening to me, and instead of me helping it, making it happen myself. So that was one part of it. But also when I saw how much effort I was really putting in, I think after you and I talked maybe the first time, it was highlighted to me how much work I was doing myself. And I realized if I could scale the business, we could get to that little mid-range, uncomfortable, out of that mid-range, six-figure company with a lot of growing pains that we were having right then, that it was time to really get over that hump. And, that's when I hired you, and we've just had a phenomenal, almost 18 months now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've had incredible growth, and I'm super proud of you because it's not without growth is not without challenge,
Right.
right? And you've certainly gone through a lot of challenges. But one of the things I think, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, that has been really your saving grace through that whole time has been your mindset,
Yeah.
and your kind of philosophy. And of course we talk. We're always talking about um, mindset and recalibrating that and getting back on path. And it's a challenge that I see a lot of women law firm owners who are really trying to level up their business, and some of them just aren't. They don't have the right mindset to feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
Yes.
Did you feel fear? Am I assuming that you
Well,
felt fear?
yes. Well, yes. So, I mean, you think about Peyton and I are relatively newlywed. We have been married. The business opened October 1, and Peyton and I met in December. So we're like the same age as the business. So at the time that I started the business, I was still a single mom with 3 kids at home who had schedules and all this stuff. And I had a lot of mom guilt about deciding whether I wanted to jump into my business more full time. So that was one of the growing pains. I also had the blessing of having Peyton and extended family to help me with that. But not only did I have that growing pain, I had sort of had to make the decision that I was going to think about this every day, and I was going to think about all of the challenges that came with it as, okay, this challenge is getting me ready for something, the next thing, whether it be the next case or the next challenge or the bigger dollar figure or the better vacation or whatever it may have been. That all of that change was really to do something big, do something better, something that I was really meant to do. And every time, kind of get down about it or overwhelmed, I really have a team of people that are like my bumper stops in life. I have good family that do that for me. I have good mentors. I have had financial mentors. I've had you as a business coach. I have a good therapist. I have people that I can rely on to tell me, this is just a growing pain. time to have a banana smoothie and move on with it. You know, or this is a, nope, you know, this is, we need to work on this. There's a systematic, you know, there's a systemic problem, and we're going to have to walk through this and fix it. And knowing that no matter what it is, whether it's an easy fix or just a, you better you know, go buy a new purse and you'll feel better, or if it's a, we got to do some changes. I know that it is there, you know, that is, we just have to keep the same mindset that, you know, the right things are coming at the right time. And part of the job is to overcome that.
Right, right. And so let's talk about some of the, first of all, it's funny, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about it takes a village. You know, people say it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm thinking it just takes a village to grow a small business. And I think that's what a lot of people don't, women especially, women business owners especially, don't really realize is that high achieving women have a curse in that we think we're supposed to achieve everything ourselves all alone as an island. Like our favorite phrase is, I'll just do it myself, you know? And and breaking through that mindset, it really requires that intense work in the beginning. Makes a lot of sense. You know, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to put in the extra hours and make it happen. But there comes a time, if you really want to elevate and create a business separate from you, where you can leave that business and go on a vacation with your husband for a period of time and your family, or you can just work a 4-day week or whatever it is, that there's a business that will continue to operate and generate money. For you to get to that point, that's a real growth and mindset shift that has to occur. And it's not one of those things where you go, okay, done. You have to do the work, feel the pain, talk about it, and have people there. I mean, has that been your experience?
Yeah. Well, for me, you know, I don't know what my first word was, but I have my baby book, and my first sentence was, I do it myself. And so this is, you know, and you know, my dad was an entrepreneur. My brother is an entrepreneur, and we had an amazing mother who could do anything, who supported all of our endeavors. And so the idea of doing it myself is very much ingrained in my family history and my story. So going from I'll do it myself, meaning I'll start my own business and I can do this, to I'll do it myself, but that doesn't mean I do everything, was a huge change. When I first started the business, my mom and aunt did something for me. My mom always had a key to my house before Peyton, but she always had a key to my house. And my aunt had one too. She would help me with my grass every once in a while, cut it. And when I started the business, they started coming into the house and doing things like taking the laundry out of the dryer and folding it up and putting it away, and not even telling me that it had been done, or just straightening up. You know how like you leave at the house with a lot of kids and you have a mess and it's behind you. And then I would get home and the dishes would be done, and I would have a minute to just lean into my kids. Well, you know, flash forward, when you've doubled your caseload and they become teenagers and they need to be driven everywhere, you start to have that idea that you have to do it again. So you have to constantly remind yourself that you don't have to do everything to still be doing it yourself. You know, to still be achieving that goal. We have lots of help, not just family. You know, we're blessed. We have helpers to help clean the house. Well, school's not in session right now, so we don't really need any help driving anybody around. But when school is in session, you know, we realized that it was more efficient for us to have someone to help us drive and get the kids back and forth than for me to lose an hour of billable time or an hour of just personal time that, you know, I could plug in with one kid or with my husband or managing my business or doing something like that. So yeah, delegating is like this constant, you know, it's this constant reminder. You don't just have to delegate in your house, you have to delegate in the business as well. And, you know, I wouldn't be the owner of the business if I wasn't good at the things I'm good at, you know, opening a business, taking the risks, getting the coach, doing the big work. But at the end of the day, I might know how I want the phone answered, but I'm really not the best person to answer the phone,
Right.
which I'm realizing now during all of this COVID, most people know that I'm answering my own phone. And, it's time for me to forward that phone line on to somebody else. The cases
Yeah.
are coming. I can let go of that fear, and delegate that to a staff member to
Yeah.
answer the phone now.
It's been a little bit scary because, at first, people who did not have virtual law firms, are then going, oh, how is this going to work with my distributed workforce?
Right.
And should I be? And the phone, I've had a number of women law firm owners tell me the phone just stopped ringing. And I'm on the phone talking to all of them, telling them, like, don't panic. This is a shot reaction. People are trying to go home and figure out, how is this going to work in my family? So they're not thinking about things outside of that immediate need. How is this going to work in my family?
Right.
But time is going to pass, and there's going to be a new normal, and a lot of the things that attorneys do, especially, it will eventually, people will be getting back to work in all different facets of our society. But attorneys have this fear around, this phone stop ringing, and it's like, okay, yes, but this is a temporary sort of situation. And what do you think is going to happen when we're all let back out into the sunshine? It's going to be, people are going to be, that if you were thinking about getting divorced before you were quarantined together, it's either going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be the time you need to work on that marriage, or it's going to be, I have had it with you. So you're going to have that. And obviously the estate planning attorneys, with all the stuff that's going on with illness, and unfortunately probate attorneys, business lawyers are going to be dealing with a lot of fallout from this,
Mm-hmm.
with
Absolutely.
businesses going out of business and contracts, being an issue.
Hey,
So
even those good old constitutional lawyers that we all wanted to be when we were in law school are going to be busy.
yes, yes. Everybody. There's gonna be a
Everyone
lot.
wanted to be a con law,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We all
attorney.
wanted to fight the good fight.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
so let's talk about your growth over the last few years, because I want people to get a sense of some of the things that
Mm-hmm.
you have done in your business, and then I want to talk about some things you've been doing since we've been here, because you haven't been sitting on your hands. So, so let's talk about sort of your growth journey to really catapult your revenue and grow your team. And I know that growing the team has been, it's always a challenge for business
Right.
owners, period. And certainly for law firm owners, when we require a certain level of skill, and we have ethical obligations
Right.
that we're having to trust people to, hold to. Um, it wasn't like you started working with me and you went out the next day and hired all these people and they were good to go, right?
No, not at all. But it's so funny because I always hear about when businesses say, well, they have a lot of turnover. And I now have a new appreciation for what that means, because turnover can be the very best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah. But you
You
had a
know,
fear around it at first. That was one thing, you
oh
were worried about your
yeah,
reputation, because were you going to
yes,
get this reputation as this horrible place to work?
right. And now I realize that, we first of all, we hired additional people. That was, I think, our first really big hire was probably a couple months after you and I started working together. And you're like, Autumn, you really, really need more team members. And we ended up scoring a really great hire, right off the bat. Well, one of her skill sets was, and we didn't realize this, I didn't hire her for this. I hired her as a paralegal, but one of her skill sets really was the tasking, the follow-up, the follow-through of all the minutia in the office, everything from pleadings to when do the air vents, the filters get changed, and helping organize everything so that no one really had to organize it. So when that happened, we realized we had a lot of remaining need for additional, team members.
Mm-hmm.
You and I went through that process where we had kind of like, what was the dream? What did the dream team look like? And what was the structure, if it was exactly like we wanted it or exactly like I envisioned it when we first started working together? And I realized, where where we had, where I had needs. And so we started hiring. And then some of those hires didn't get along with some of the other hires. And we had a lot of people kind of not adjust as well. Luckily, I will say this, we have done exit interviews with almost every client. I mean, with every employee that's left, not every single one, but with most of them. And with change comes fear on the part of the employee as well. So as I'm hiring and I'm shelling out money in payroll and I'm seeing this payroll double every month in the, I'm like, oh my goodness, we've got to bill. On their side, they're thinking, am I going to still have a job? This person's taking my work. I used to do everything. And so they're also going through this process of like, I don't have to do it all myself. There's somebody now who's going to do that. And that doesn't mean I'm not valuable anymore. So we had a lot of that. We've hired, 2 paralegals now, 2 full-time discovery experts, another attorney. And then my husband has really committed to being our firm administrator in that period of time as well. So knowing that we had someone who was kind of keeping their pulse on the HR, because that is not my gifting. It's just, I love my employees and I want them to love me back. And so my solution to HR used to be, here's a bonus, or here's a raise, or yay, you. And, I realize now that it can be a lot more, it needs a lot more than what the attention I was able to give it.
Right. And I think you've also really gone through a process of putting more systems in place, because you have to do that when you have a bigger team. When it's you and your paralegal that you've had forever, everything kind of lives in both of your heads, and you constantly are interacting to talk about things. So you don't have to think it through. Is this how I really want this to work? And document those processes and develop more systematic procedures. But you started doing that because as you were growing, you did have some hires that didn't go well, that for on their part or your part or whatever, where you just there wasn't that good fit. And I think that really taught you a lot too. I mean, and I think that's something that people underestimate as a necessary part of the process. We think for some reason we're failures if we hire people and then we have to let them go or they quit or whatever. But actually, it's like that's a growing pain. It's a growing process. Like
100%.
If your children start dating, most of them probably aren't going to marry the first guy that they date. They're going to date some people and they're going to grow and learn how to have relationships. Right. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it used to feel like there was something wrong. Like I should have figured this out, this hiring thing.
Why didn't I see that red flag?
Right.
The interview.
Why didn't I listen? But it's kind of like the same as in relationships. I mean, sometimes your picker's broken and you don't know how to pick. And sometimes you just need to practice. And
sometimes you grow. And the outside that you hired, you weren't thinking of, I really need this level. I hired at this level. And
I hired a lot for loyalty as opposed to skill, because there was so much interaction just with when you have 1 or 2 people, it is more about this gelling, but when you have a bigger staff and a lot of people, well, now you realize, okay, well, you hire, you obviously don't want to hire somebody you don't like, but, you're looking at their skill sets and you're also looking about how can their skill set meet our team's needs and how are they going to interact with our clients? Because if everyone's the same or everyone's just, just great friends, well, that means that there's some client out there who doesn't really gel with us. And so we are missing the opportunity to meet their particular need with either the skill or the personality or whatever it might be, So, and I just have gotten where I'm not taking it as personally, this
huge.
is a business. Yeah, it's a business. And, I would love to always be able to hire somebody and always feel like I'm committed to them, but it's not marriage. It's, not a, sacred oath of some sort. You're hiring someone to be an employee and they have a job to do. And if they can't do the job, or or especially if you have trained them well, or they refuse to do the job, or it's just not a good fit, then it's not your, some sort of cosmic obligation to keep a non-performing, person on your payroll.
And I think that is a huge, that's a big point that you're making right there, because I've seen it a lot. I'm sure you have too, with uh, colleagues and experience that, where people, it's, when you start your firm, it feels like it is you. It
Right.
is you. And so when you bring somebody into it, that's a very special thing. And they have to feel like family, right? But if
Right.
you want to grow that bigger business, you really have to start separating yourself emotionally from the business entity and say, what does the business need? Not what emotional needs do I
Right.
need to have fulfilled by people who
Right.
work for me. It's more about what does the
Right.
business need, and and you can care about each other
Yeah,
within that scope. But
of
that
course.
doesn't mean that it's family. Like that's one
Right.
of my kind of pet peeves is the whole thing. I used to work for a company years ago. It was an agency, and we were all young, and we talked about it being like family. And it always kind of bothered me, because I thought, no, what I would like is more money so I can spend time with my family.
Right.
The job, right? But oftentimes people say, well, we're like family here. It's like, well, what if your employees don't really want to be your family? What if they want to come
Right.
do an awesome job for you and get compensated fairly for it, so that they can go be with their families?
Right.
I mean,
Well, and I mean, the other part of that is to have a family atmosphere, to call something family, which is, what we do in my whole practice. There is a commitment level there that is deeper than whatever it is. So if you've made a baby with somebody, you, whether you realized it or not, you have made a commitment together in some way to make that baby functioning adult human being. That type of commitment doesn't really exist in the context of the workplace. You can act like family. You can support each other in their endeavors, and so when I think about when employees say it's like family, what I hope they mean is, if I need to sharpen my skill, Autumn figures out a way for me to take that CLE. If I don't feel well, she's supportive of me staying home and getting better. If something traumatic really does happen, we figure out a way to send some food over there.
mhm,
But to the extent that I have an obligation, it's
yeah,
that's different. You want them to know that they're committed and on a professional level, but it really is so that you can then be there for your family.
right.
You
Well,
know?
so and the idea behind growing a larger business is also, you can support more people and their families in
Yes.
the community if you're growing a larger business. I mean, when we started working together, you had one full-time person and a
Right.
part-time associate, right? Or associate of counsel. And so you look at now the number of families that you're impacting, and the number of people that are able to benefit and live a better life because of what you're all doing together to
Right.
grow your business. And so there's a lot of value in that can't be discounted, you know.
Right.
And but that's about
That
putting
becomes your obligation.
that's about being grown-ups and saying, we're doing this so that we can all pay the mortgage. Yeah,
That's right.
right. Like,
I mean,
and then also impact lives. I mean, you have a
you're
larger
impacting
purpose
so
to your
many lives.
business, right? Yeah.
Your business is supporting not just the people who work there, not just your clients, but the person who cut every person in my office's hair, which I need a haircut.
Yeah, we all do.
Like,
Mine is
yeah,
huge right now.
exactly. I mean, it. it doesn't just, if we're doing well in our business, it doesn't just mean that I get to have somebody to help me with my lawn or my house. It might mean that someone else gets to hire a lawn company, and then that lawn company gets to hire another person. I mean, I hate to use trickle down economics, but kind of sounds like trickle down economics,
Yeah, if only it worked that way in a perfect world, but
Right.
on a larger scale. But the also, there is an obligation to your clients, and you said at the beginning, we had 40 cases. You were super excited about that, and now you're in the hundreds and 200 plus cases now, and so you think about how many of those people get to have you as their attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't have been able to do that because you just didn't have the capacity. And now you're able to, so you're really throwing a rock in a pond ripple effect that's happening by you being able to grow the business just throughout the whole Pensacola community. Every business owner that's able to do that. So let's talk about what's going on now. Because I know a lot of people are going to watch this and they're going to that's where their head is at.
Right.
And I want to talk about some of the things that you did immediately, and then some of the strategies that you've been engaging in while we're all sort of on lockdown, because your phone is ringing. Your phone is ringing, and you are still getting clients, and you're getting new clients and new business. You're not just servicing existing clients. And so I really want you to talk with us about that. And so, when you first found out you had to go home and quarantine, what was all that like?
Well, we didn't, we weren't obligated when we decided to go home and quarantine. That week before, we actually officially went home on the 17th of March. So St. Patrick's Day. And I had clients in the office on the 16th, maybe the 17th that day. And it was packed that week. I mean, it was almost like everyone felt this looming idea. And so they all wanted their cases. And so, I mean, I was beat by the time that we decided to go virtual, or to go remote. But, that afternoon I talked to the staff and I could just feel that everybody was unsettled. And I was like, let's go. Maybe this was at lunchtime. And I said, let's go ahead and plan on this being our last day, get together what you need, and take tomorrow off and just reset. So we took a Friday off and reset and get your home offices, get your stations set up. What do you need? Do you need a screen? Do you need a computer? Do you need a printer at home? Whatever you need. Let's get that going. And so our IT guy actually set up home computers for everybody. We took all the computers out of the office, essentially, except for mine, because that was pretty well set up here anyway. And we've been cloud-based since the beginning of our firm. So doing something like working from home is not new to any of us. Just working from home all the time that really changed things. So we set up everything, and then forwarded those phones to my phone. And, I did that. People were saying, oh, you don't do that. But my dad's in real estate. And he said that when we had recessions before, that the salesman would be like, just send them straight to my phone, straight to my phone. So I decided I was going to go ahead and do that. And immediately we sent out a newsletter to our clients to let them know what we were doing for COVID. I expanded my availability. And I did that because when people are at home and they're trying to homeschool and they're trying to figure out their own work schedules, it becomes even less, flexible for them in some ways. They don't have a lunch hour anymore. They've got a 3-year-old. So I expanded those hours from 7 to 7 days a week. And what I found was people really didn't take me up on that, which was nice, but they knew I was willing to do it. And I kept the phone on and I made myself available for Zoom conferences and client appointments anytime, 7 days a week. I haven't had to work a Sunday other than just doing my regular work that I've always done on Sundays, but I haven't had to do a consult on a Sunday. I have done many Saturdays. But I'm getting my long mornings, and I'm balancing my time in a different way.
Right.
So we also ramped up our marketing. We did not pull back at all. My social media group that's here in Pensacola, Move Media, Stephen and Annie Gray, who are just very diligent. For the first week or so, Stephen was coming to the house and then and filming for me. But we kind of stopped that. I'm filming for myself, but he's available, and I am literally filming anytime something hits me. I turn that ring light on and I put the camera on there and I make a video and I send it to him. He edits it, in case I say a wrong word or I do have a funny face or something like that. He edits it and he gets it out almost the same day. So we actually ramped up our social media posts, so they're way more often. And we started talking about not only COVID and what you can do, but also the things that were on people's minds, trying to anticipate the questions that were about to happen. I think that we did a really good job at anticipating what happens when you have a pandemic and you have somebody on spring break and you have another person on the other side of spring break, because that's when this all happened, is in the middle of our local spring break.
Right.
So we got ahead of that on a lot of cases. We also reached out to a lot of clients and asked them if they wanted emergency language and pandemic language in their MSAs and their parenting plans. Being in the Panhandle, we get a lot of hurricanes. And the question we always have from clients started to be, well, who gets the kid if we're having a quarantine?
Right.
Well, guess what? No parenting plan that I had seen had anything about that. Same as it didn't have anything
Because we weren't
about,
thinking about that.
and we could have, though, because
Yeah.
we have had hurricanes. And so we
Yeah.
have this language that we insert into our parenting plans. Talks about, following guidelines, following CDC recommendations or National Weather Service. So we've done some things like that. And I've also taken the time to really beef up our discovery process. We're doing stuff like, e-notarizing, DocuSigns. We've basically explored every available online program that we possibly can to help us automize. One of the cool things that we did is, a lot of people would return their discovery to us. Well, we did pick up and drop off for the first 2 weeks. So that way nobody's case would slow down. You tell us where to come get it and we'll come pick it up in your mailbox, no contact. We started doing that pretty much right away. But we also found that our local legal printing company would scan documents and put them in the exact format that we do when we get discovery. So now we have not only figured out how to deal with this, but we will never have a staff member sitting there feeding documents through a computer or through a printer again, billing our clients 2 or 3 hours. We're going to send this out. This will be outsourced. There'll be a charge for that scanning, and it'll be much smaller. And we've saved ourselves time. So
that's what I think is interesting. I think that we're going to see going forward that a lot of businesses, and particularly, we're talking about law firms today, are going to see there are so many efficiencies and advantages. And even if you don't, even if you can't wait to get back to the office and you don't go virtual, I think you're going to see a lot of law firm owners start thinking to themselves, what, do I need to be in person for every meeting? Are there things that can be done differently? Are there, and I learned this while I was out doing this, and this is something we're definitely going to keep doing and incorporate into our business, even when we're all back in the office. Like that's a great time and money saver. And you've been, you, like a lot of other attorneys, have been conducting, you've been involved in hearings and mediations and things like that. And that it's interesting because you're seeing a lot of old dogs learning new tricks too.
Well, yes and no. When it first happened, we had a brand new judge on the bench in family law, Lacey Powell Clark, and she just, been elected. And man, as soon as she realized that she could do Zoom conferences and Zoom hearings, she started doing them. And so that, you know, we were like peas and carrots on this. We're like, this is no big deal, you know, that no problem. So many attorneys are so reluctant to evolve at all. So many of our judges, and even now our judges are starting to see like, okay, I'm going to have this massive train wreck, you know, traffic jam at the end of this tunnel if I don't start figuring out a way to have some of these basic hearings now instead of waiting until June to do everything. So I had a Zoom hearing this morning with a judge who hadn't been doing them before. So he did a good job. And you can tell, you know, everybody's starting to kind of get their, you know, their sea legs about them. But yeah, it's been great to me. You get those discovery hearings done without having to really go trek up to the courthouse, saving clients money. I mean, a 15-minute hearing is really just taking 15 minutes and not 15 minutes to drive, 15 minutes to park, 15 minutes to meet, 15 minutes to get back. I mean, and the client's paying a lot less money and everybody's a lot more efficient.
Right,
So.
right. And, you know, and you were even, when we started doing this too, we were talking about, because I've been talking with a lot of my clients about ways to talk about what's going on with COVID-19. And you've done that really well with, like, when one of the first things that you put videos out about were, you were talking about the money. And because I said, you know, you guys can talk with people are just looking for legal advice. You could talk about what your point of view or your thoughts are on a lot of the issues that are coming out. And you really did a great job of taking that and thinking about, you know, from a family law perspective. So one of those was the dividing up the stimulus checks. How are we going to divide this up when you get so much per child? And I thought that was really great how you took that whole stimulus payment thing and said, oh my gosh, don't you know that this is going to just become the thing that people are going to argue over, right? And you address that, and you've actually gotten calls from that, from from these videos you've been doing. You've been doing videos. You've done some great videos. You know, in the time we've worked together, I think you hired your social media team just before you and I started working together, and you really have put out some high quality videos, and they look fabulous. But the ones that you've been doing from home, what I love about them is that, first of all, you're doing them frequently. So it's like daily, sometimes a couple times a day, something hits your brain, you sit down, which is wonderful to see, because I think so many attorneys have a fear of just turning on the camera and talking to their community, right? But once you do that the first time, you go, oh, that was easy peasy. Why am I not doing this more often? You know, when something hits my brain, I can just flip the camera on and talk. And you've done it in, sometimes I saw you in your cute little Knowles ball hat, and you've done it after you worked out on your Peloton, and you've done it. And I think people really like that. Have you found that a positive reaction to that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I first started doing these videos, I wanted them to be polished because I wanted everything. I want my client, and we have a very polished system. You know, you're getting high quality legal services. And so I wanted my videos and my social media to really look that polished. And, you know, I had all these social media experts telling me, oh, it's all about transparency and stuff. And I was like, whatever. Well, now transparency is required, you know what I mean? And so I'm getting a dose in that. You know, I had a long time ago stopped looking at myself when I look at those videos, because I had a speech coach, you know, one of my many mentors, Daniel Pennington, it was like, it's not about you. You know, you want to put your best foot forward. Yeah, you want to have your hair brushed. Yeah, you want to have on an outfit that looks nice. But ultimately, if you're going to sit there and criticize, you know, oh, it looks like I've gained some weight, or it looks like my hair needs a haircut, or I don't like it straight, or I don't like it curly, or whatever, then the focus really isn't on who you're serving and what you're trying to say. So, you know, this last year I've had a lot of growth in that, and this has forced me to have a lot of growth, because I can't nitpick everything I've said, and I hear all the things I say that I mean, my draw, and you know, some of the little, I mean, just all the little things that are not perfect that, you know, I'm just having to live with, and realize that my clients need to see that they're not going to get edited. You know, we're going to be perfected. We're going to be polished and prepared But I
You're a
might
human
say
being. Well,
I
and you're
might
in it,
say
and you're in it with them. You're in it with them.
Right.
And I think that's the key thing, is that people really like that authenticity. And that doesn't mean that we're gonna do these videos with a pile of dirty laundry behind us. But if you're
Right.
talking about having 4 kids at home, they know there's dirty laundry in there somewhere. And you know, but
Yeah.
but being authentically you, and saying, look, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I've been there. I think that's a very powerful approach, and I think it's paid off for you because, like I said, your phone has been ringing, and the key marketing thing that you've been doing is you've been putting out more and more videos,
Right.
and really addressing what's going on now and some of their concerns, and you're getting people thinking.
Yeah, we're getting people thinking. Our calls, they fluctuate probably a little bit more based on the day of the week than anything else at this point. I don't see a huge dip in the number of cases or the types of cases, but we'll have like a Tuesday, it's like a really big day on the phones, and then like Thursday, no one calls. And so if I were to get in my head about that on a Thursday, I could potentially be worrying about that all weekend. Oh my gosh. And of course, nobody ever calls on Fridays except for judges that want to get stuff set. And so you're like, oh my goodness. And that's 4 days of you worrying about, oh, is my business about to tank? And what am I going to do? And how am I going to meet payroll and all this? And instead, just think, oh, it's a Thursday. Or,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I
going to
can look
get
out
so
my
much done
window.
today because the phone's not going to
Right.
ring, right?
I mean, I can look out my window and tell how many phone calls I'm going to get. We have a day like yesterday, which was just, I mean, I always think of God just peacocking around with his tail feathers all out. It was so pretty, and just showing off, and it was gorgeous. And accordingly, while the day was beautiful, I got most of my calls early in the morning and most of them later in the afternoon. And while it was beautiful outside, guess what? Not many people wanted to
Yeah,
talk
everybody's
about their
out
family life.
walking, or they're by the pool, or
That's
they're doing
right.
something like that, right?
That's
Uh, uh,
right.
and I think you make a great point about that. You know, what I find is when I start to get in that state where, something's not happening, I'm doing things and something's not happening, I always go to that place of, what can I create right now? What can I create? What can I be working on? This is my opportunity. I've got this time that I can be thinking about my clients and thinking about something I can create, whether that's a video or, a book, or your articles for your
Mm-hmm.
newsletter, whatever. It's your opportunity to be creative and enjoy that process, because everything is not going to be on our timetable, right? And I think that's the issue. Is
Right.
a lot of us get, like, we want to control every aspect, but you have to allow that space in between for people to catch up with you and catch
We've
up with
done a
what's
lot
going
of,
on.
yeah, I mean, we've done a lot, not only, during this period of time, but we did a few things like, for the first time ever, our firm is offering health insurance and other benefits to our employees. And we finally got that done. That was, that had been looming out there. We knew that it was important for us to get those types of benefits in order to attract the best type of hires and the best talent out there. And that was a big defect in our pitch. We paid well, but we didn't have these benefits. And so just kind of kicking the can on that, and like just thinking of the drudgery of figuring all of that out. Well, we used those first 2 weeks, we found the person to get that done, and we got our health insurance policies and all of those benefits written for April 1. Well, we wouldn't have been able to, we would have been able to had we prioritized that, but this break allowed us to do that. We are tightening up our newsletter. I mean, and we're also doing some things like, I'm an avid reader. But we're trying to teach, some of the mindset skills to our children. We still have boyfriends and stuff that come over to visit our girls. I think it's impossible. I think we might have people sneaking out if we didn't let them, see their boyfriends during all this. But but asked all of the kids to read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and that's one of the things we've been talking about at the dinner table. I mean, they're not there yet, not all of them. Some of them are, but we're trying to use this to do something that we thought in our incorrect mindset we didn't have time to do before.
Right.
And so now we realize we do have time, and oh my goodness, there's still as many clients and there's still as many emails. I mean, maybe more. And somehow we're all finding time to do the more things.
Right.
And it's not like I had a long commute or anything. I mean, it takes me 15 minutes to get to work. So I can't even use
it's
that.
not just more things either. It's more of the right things. Like if you're doing it well, you can do more of the right things right now for your business and for yourself, wholly
Right.
for yourself. I know
Right.
you've been taking some time just to be yourself and have time just for yourself during the day, which is a huge challenge for somebody who runs a bigger firm and has a big family, and you're looking for that time. And so this has allowed you to do it because you have a different sort of schedule now. But we need to end in just a minute, but I want to just wrap up with if you could just tell us quickly kind of what you think the number one sort of piece of advice you could give women, another woman law firm owner right now at this time, who's really looking to not only survive this, but thrive and continue on her growth journey to reach that $1 million plus club.
Well, first of all, the business is there. It is there. I don't think it's drying up. So that would be if you have this idea in your mind that no one is going to pay for your very valuable services, that is the wrong mindset. You went to law school. You are educated. You're out of law school. You've handled however many cases. You can do hard things. And this is just a different type of hard thing. And so we come out of this with better computer skills, or maybe you realize you make this facial expression that's really strange, or whatever it is, you take something from this and it's going to make you a better lawyer on the other end. And I don't think that it's time to reassess and lower your goals. I think it's time to stretch for your goal. It could be that you may have to delay. My financial goal this year is not changing. I've analyzed that over the last 2 weeks. And I had a growth plan for this year, and I still believe I'm going to hit it. And that would be over what we had grown last year. So, always thinking about 20% growth at least. And I think we're going to hit it, because I think every opportunity like this is just a new opportunity for a different type of life. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Right. You and I definitely are on the same page with that. I am a huge proponent of personal growth and business growth, whatever it is that you choose for yourself. We don't know how long we have. And that's one thing this pandemic has really shown us, is we don't know how long we have. And so finding those things that are most important to you and meaningful to you, those challenges, those things that challenge you, those relationships that really fulfill you, all, and that, all those things that you love to do, how can you build a life that will allow you to have that, where you don't spend all your time stressed and worrying and overworked and overwhelmed and in a hardship and in a lack state of mind. So I really appreciate you being here today and talking about this, because you're such an inspiration to me, and I know you'll be such an inspiration to others. And so I'm so happy that we created this so that I could share it and you could share it, and maybe we can offer some encouragement to other women law firm owners that we know out there.
Hey, it's one thing when you're a coach and you say, hey, call me.
Right.
But call me. I'll tell you how valuable it is to have someone who will, to hold you accountable. But I'll give you encouragement too. I'm no expert, but I can tell you to keep going. Call me. It's okay.
I agree.
I'm good. Y'all do this.
I agree. Thanks so much. So
Yeah,
just tell us where we can find your, go ahead and give us the details on your law firm so we can find you
sure.
if somebody wants to reach out to you.
Yep, Autumn Beck Blackledge, PLLC, Pensacola, Florida. We're in downtown, and our office number is 466-3115. That's area code 850. And you can reach me on our website, autumnobeck.com, or my email, or anything. You can figure out a way to find me. If you can Google, you can find me. At least
Yeah,
I
and if
hope
they
so.
can't find you, they can ask me and I'll show them where
Yeah.
you are.
If you can't find me, please figure out a way to tell me you couldn't find me, because I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thanks again for being here. And this is Davina Frederick with Wealthy Woman Lawyer. And I'm so glad you guys are going to have this video to watch and get to meet Autumn because she's a delight. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.